So good morning from us. Thank you again to Hakan for kindly inviting us to give the presentation about this topic that you see here above. It's like twofold. We are trying to talk about the Oz factor as a phenomenon, which we'll explain later if you don't know about. And second, the research benefits of civilian UAP databases. Now that sounds cool. What is it about? I might start with explaining what I mean by civilian. Like Hakan already said, the GEP, Gesellschaft zur Erforschung des UFO-Phänomens, Society for Research into the UFO or UAP phenomena, as it's called today, is pretty old. We're the largest organization in Germany, founded in 1972. We have around 250, I think, members. It's right now continuously growing somehow. And you can see the presenters up here. Let me try this thing. If it's not working, it's fine. That's the current board of directors, and Andre and me are part of the directors, and we are speaking today. The presentation has also been prepared with Ralf van Toyle, who is working on the data management side of this, and many of the data-related parts of our presentations are from him, so we at least wanted to mention him. He cannot be here today. As a civilian UAP organization, what do? We have an office. We have a journal, bi-monthly journal. We have a YouTube channel, all of that. And of course, we also investigate UAP cases. That's what we all do, right? And this is the next slide. You can see we view this investigation of cases as UAP single case studies. And as you all know, we've talked about it yesterday already. It's commonly named forensics right now, it seems, because all of these processes are involved in gaining data from experiences, right? It's about perception, because a human is perceiving something in the sky or somewhere else that he or she deems as, I can't explain that. And then next part is, that is a UFO or it's a UAP, and I have to contact someone to tell about it. This would be a precondition, otherwise we wouldn't get that experience in our organization, right? So what they then do is, like, they call us or send us a WhatsApp, whatever you do today, and talk about it from their memory, right? They are remembering what happened. And then next is, as I said, they talk about it, they communicate an experience. And what we do then is we investigate. We try to gain secondary data on it, like what were the weather conditions on that day? What was the astronomical constellation on that day? Might there be an explanation that we can find? And then finally, we might find an explanation communicated to the witness, or we might not find. And all of the parts of this process are now documented. And that's it, that's a case investigation, right? And from 1972 on, we've accumulated a lot of data from exactly that, with all of its shortcomings and all of its advantages. And the result is this. We have databases today, right? Most of them are online, and they contain information about these perceived things that have been memorized, communicated, investigated, documented. And as you can see here in the picture, there are different types of data that we document. There is structured data, like the date and time of a sighting, even though it might be an estimation. It is structured, right? You can work on that with the computer. But also, there is a lot of free text. You see that on the right, because you have the things that the witness told, right? And we just document it down, or they have written an email, and we have the text from that email. That is free text. Not as simple to process with a computer. If you want to do analysis, that's what I mean. But still, that's what we have today. Many organizations do that. They do that in all kinds of formats. Some are online, some are hidden away, whatever. And then what to do with that? One thing you can do is descriptive statistics, right? I talked about the day and the time of a sighting, or let's say the place. This is what we do. In the GEP, we use a commercial software. It's called ClickSense. In big businesses, this is used to do big data stuff and analysis like that. And as I said, Ralf van Toyle is the expert on this, so he's able to get this out of our data, right? And heat map of sightings all over Germany. It's just our database, right? But what he has also done is he integrated more UAP databases from all over the world. Right now we have around 377,000 cases in ClickSense. And one thing we can do is do statistics on it. How many cases can be explained? How many stay unexplained? That's a classic, right? What are the shapes being seen and stuff like that? That's what you can do. What else can you do? This is just a short presentation, so we cannot do a state-of-the-art kind of thing, but we can at least point you to this interesting paper. It's forthcoming. It's from the SCU. And what they did here is they created a set of 216 curated cases, and on that, they did cluster analysis. They found out what are the shapes that can be found here. And what's more interesting to me personally is what features of the UAP experience are interesting. Is the shape of the UAP an interesting thing to pursue or no? So that's in the upper part. And it's still a preprint, but I think it should be out soon. And of course, that's also, apart from the curation thing, it's just a work with a UAP database, right? The curation, of course, is something you have to trust in, right? The data quality problems from the database with all of the procedures I told you before, they are not going away. I now have to trust these guys that the curation has been done right. Are these serious cases or no? This is not going away. There is something else you can do. You can do feature analysis of the experiences, and that's what we did. And what we want to talk about, what's our project today. You see here a very classic image of one of the most interesting experiences in our database. It's a case from 1991, and there was a person, female person, walking through a small town, and then suddenly she felt different, like everything had gone silent, the lights went out, and disappeared. Like in the inner city. It's not a big city, Ronneburg. I don't know who of you knows that, but it's not a big city. But it was in the inner city, and she had this experience. And there are some parts of this experience that cannot be measured by any sensors ever. And that's the thing I talked about. Before this thing appeared, pretty close to her, even with seeming occupants in there doing stuff on their computer. Is it a home office of some kind? I don't know, but before that appeared, her feeling changed, right? She felt as if she was under a jar of some kind. Everything went silent, the lights went out. And of course, as always with these close encounter experiences, nobody else was able to see that. There were no secondary witnesses or anything. It was a singular witness, a singular experience. And this precondition, this thing that happened before, this is what we call the Oz factor. It's been defined by Jenny Randles in 1983, already in that book, UFO Reality. And here's the definition, like the sensation of being isolated, transposed from the real world into a different environmental framework, suggested of being transported temporarily from our world into another. That's the feeling that the witnesses have. And this is something that is often reported, especially in close encounters. So often that it got its own name now from the Wizard of Oz, of course, it's the Oz factor. And we have that in our database as well. There are witnesses that report that. First of all, the one I just showed you. But in UAP research, we not so often talk about there is also a psychological phenomenon pretty close to that. It's called a depersonalization or derealization experience. And here's the definition for that. It refers to feeling detached from, and if you are an outside observer of your own body, if it's depersonalization, and you feel displaced from the real world, the outside surroundings, if it's derealization. From my daytime job, I put all the codes here because I love to code diseases, and that's what you should not perceive it as. If you have that too often, as if it's often the cause with psychological issues. If this occurs often in your daily life, that's a disorder, and you need treatment because you cannot pursue your daily life because you often have these episodes. But actually, and that's what's in this paper that's also here, if it's a transient symptom, that happens to many people in the general population. So it can happen to anyone. And if it doesn't happen 5 times a day, that's fine. is not pathological at all. It's just a way to compensate things. And the things are general stress factors. Like this is a thing to compensate general stress in your life. Some people might do that. Some have other compensation mechanisms. But it's something interesting because we can now formulate a research question. And the research question would be, UAP close encounters have been documented to cause significant disruption to the observer's sense of coherence, often resulting in a traumatic experience. So is it possible that during these experiences, depersonalization and derealization may manifest and that are then misinterpreted as a seemingly anomalous part of the experience called the Oz factor, which is like created by the experience, created by the UAP viewed. So where is it from? Is it completely psychological and explainable by the things we already know or not? We want to know more about that. So it's a research question, and to pursue it, we need a project. So that's what we did. And the method, of course. So the method would be make it better hypothesis. This is just a research question, right? We want to formulate certain hypotheses. Andre will talk about that soon. And then determine features that you want to seek out to either validate or refute the hypothesis formulated. And then identify cases which you want to examine to be able to refute or validate the hypothesis. And at last, do some statistical testing. That's where the magic happens, right? When in the end you can say, yeah, hypothesis can be confirmed or no. And what the certain hypotheses are and how the project continues, this is the part of Andre now. Okay. So I'll hand it to you.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, at first, it's my first presentation in English, so I have to read a little bit. Based on the research question, we formed two sets of hypotheses. The first set refers to the relation between depersonalization or derealization experiences and the occurrence of traumatic stress. So we wanted to find out if there is a relation between the occurrence of the Oz factor and potential stressors. The data of the GEP single case studies could include both details, mostly in the free text of experiencer reports. So, hypothesis 1, there is a relation between the occurrence of stressors and that of the Oz factor. And hypothesis 0, there is no relation between the occurrence of stressors and that of the Oz factor. So, to further investigate the underlying research question, it is also possible to compare unidentified and identified cases in relation to Oz factor experiences. So we formed these hypotheses. Hypothesis 1, the Oz factor occurs in identified cases with a similar frequency as in unidentified cases. And hypothesis 0, the Oz factor does not occur in unidentified cases or occur significantly less frequently than in unidentified cases. To test the first set of hypotheses, we needed to identify if the UAP experience was accompanied by elevated levels of stress. Based on experience, we suggest the following potential stressors: late evening or night, long car trip, mental illness, and conflict situations. So, to test the first hypothesis, I was able to manually select applicable cases. I was reviewing case files on unidentified cases, searching for statements which indicate the Oz factor experience. And this is not the complete list, but a part of it. We have, in the GEP, we have 118 unidentified cases. And in these 118 unidentified cases, we find out where's the Oz factor and where is potential stress. Let me take a look. So, in the second to last column, occurrence of the Oz factor is indicated with 1, and also in the last column, occurrence of stressors are indicated with 1, 2. This is not the complete list. I told you for other tests, it's just a part of it. So, So, to test the hypothesis, we use a chi-squared test to determine the relation between the two variables from the last two columns. I used PSPP as a free statistical software, and the Pearson chi-square coefficient is 0.02. That confirms the hypothesis 1, because if you have a coefficient below 0.05, you confirm the hypothesis 1. There's a relation between the occurrence of stressors and that of the Oz factor. These results suggest that the assumption that the Oz factor is a stress-related experience of derealization may be correct, but cannot be seen as conclusive confirmation. The stressors defined here were not explicitly surveyed during the casework. This naturally results in a certain degree of uncertainty with regard to the stress moments actually experienced by individuals. Further tests are necessary. So, and because of the number of cases included in the test of the first set of hypotheses was low, just our unidentified cases, 118 in number, the second set of hypotheses was formed. Here we wanted to compare the occurrence of Oz factor experiences in unidentified cases with identified cases. But now the data set is much larger. In the GEP we have around 4,000 unidentified cases, identified cases, sorry. Manual reviewing is not feasible anymore. So we decided to employ LLM-based keyword search in the free text of all cases to be included. We took the following steps: basic data selection, definition of search terms, Python script for processing of cases with OpenAI LLM, refining the LLM prompt through multiple tests and preliminary analysis, final data analysis and evaluation of hypotheses. So here you can see the input format of keywords we identified as an iterative process. The keywords are in German, since all free texts from our investigators are in German too. The usage of an LLM to search for these has several advantages. Typing errors, word wraps, and synonyms are still found, while classic terms search we would have received much less direct matches. So, as of today, we are not done with testing the second set of hypotheses yet, so the project is still ongoing. But the first set of results shown here indicates much less hits of Oz factor experience in the identified cases. This should be due to us not identified all relevant keywords, or the occurrence of less close encounters in identified cases could play a role. We don't know. To summarize, what did we want to present you today? Most accessible data on UAP is buried in civilian UAP databases on single case studies. Challenges are data quality and a lack of standardization. Research questions can be answered by using these data, including methodically dealing with these challenges. Our example is the Oz factor, an anomalous concomitant phenomenon of UAP experiences, or is it stress-induced derealization? Research on experience-based parts of UAP might contribute to the detection of real anomalies one day. Our position is that accumulation of case-related data is not enough for UAP research. As we have shown, it is possible to form hypotheses about UAP and UAP experiences and test these with civilian UAP case data. To strengthen the results, more data sets should be included, which contains the task of internationally standardization of UAP case data. Last but not least, the quality of data stored in such databases need to be improved. There are different ways to achieve this. Standardization is an issue. In the GEP, we work with 45 data items, while others have only 21 roundabout. I'd like to finish our presentation here. If you are interested in more information on the GEP, there's a journal paper on our work, including case studies and data management issues. If you are interested in working with our data yourself, an anonymized version is updated monthly and can be downloaded as CSV from Zenodo. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention, and we are looking forward to your questions.
It's perfect timing. Okay.
Anomaly or derealization is making a lot of assumptions. Because you could, is that me? Well, maybe that shows. It could be both. You know, it could be anomaly or and derealization because there is no clear relationship. I think you have suggested that, you know, there could be a stressed individual that goes through a process of derealization, and then, you know, the UFO pops up, where, you know, the UFO is the dependent variable. Maybe Gary Nolan would say that there are certain constellations, might be physiological or psychological in nature, that might open up certain types of people more to certain experiences. Yeah. I'm not talking about the ontological status. And then the stress is just something that is, you know, it happens on both sides. You know, it happens when you're going through the derealization process, and then eventually you see the UFO. I just want you to be careful with the dependency, and I'm saying that also because, of course, that will be a major issue to the experiencing community, because they are very sensitive, in my understanding, to the idea, even though it's a necessary question to ask. Okay. I mean, the church, when they're talking about miracles, they also first test the psychopathology.
Okay. So I want to say something. We don't want to say that the assumed derealization is the sighting of the UFO is a part of the derealization. We'd say, no. You have a UFO sighting. Yeah, you see an UFO, and then you become in a situation of stress and of derealization, and you feel this Oz factor. But it's not the same. Like there's an UFO and you have derealization. So that's two different parts of the sighting and of the feeling. So,
yeah, but I guess even more combinations are possible, right? And that's what we were trying to achieve by showing two sets of hypotheses, that you have to dig deeper into the stuff. Right? It's just the beginning. As Andre said, we're not complete here. This is just the first sets of doing it, and more research needs to be done, as always. So it's absolutely valid, of course, yes.
Of course, I missed the first talk about where you define the Oz factor, but there's a lot to talk about that. But I just have, I guess, a simple question, and later we can kind of dive more into it. How do you see your research informing future research? And specifically, do you find that it's important to escape just the study of the report? And this is something I'll talk about later, but in other words, how can this kind of research that works from the historical archival sort of data kind of a non-forensic sort of archival approach to future research with respect to this question?
Interesting question, of course. We deliberately picked out a part for our research question that is not easily answerable without forensics because it's part of the experience. You cannot measure the OS factor. Maybe you can one day. So what we're trying to show is that kind of research is possible on these civilian UAP databases we've been having for years. We know about all of the data quality problems they have, and we still can do science with it. That was the intention to prove. Of course, it will be totally interesting to get into a more progressive kind of research where you don't have to rely on all of that old data, right? But for now, how do you do it? Because this OS factor is something that is experienced and it's talked about to us. That's what I said in the first part. And this is what we document, and this is how we have it. There is no other way of having it. But of course, this triggers you, and you like to find out how can you do this in another type of way. And there's also a kind of contribution of this research because first, it cannot only be done with our cases, our data, which is what we did here. We'd like to expand it on more databases so the results become more valid. And then second, how can we move out of that forensic step? That's of course interesting, yeah.
I mean, your colleagues at IGDP have frameworks.
Yes.
In which it's not a question of measure, it's a question, right, of the phenomenological articulation of the experience as the measure. The human is the measure.
Yes.
Your last question?
Talk to the box.
Thanks for your talk. You used a large language model to
Yes.
to extract some data. Are you planning to use large language models in the future to reclassify all cases?
I wouldn't.
A lot of cases, because with this powerful technique, maybe you have a new viewpoint on everything. Which
Absolutely.
is independent from a human observer, you know, a human mind.
Yeah, of course, there are ideas to do that, but I think it's step 7, and let's do the first steps first. How can we apply LLMs more to get more out of all that free text? And it does not even start with the already computerized free text in the database, because we have written notes, we have cassettes with talks with the witnesses and stuff like that. There is a huge part of our archive not even digitized. It's all analog. So, and there might be totally interesting data in that. And I think we need LLMs even for stuff like that. How can you do OCR on written handwriting? Exactly, yeah.
Describe it, then classify it, you can automate everything.
So that's what would be interesting to us, to get more and more structured data, to be able to process it with a statistics tool like Andre did, for example. And that would be the first step, structure the data. And then what's also interesting to us, we only mentioned it briefly, is if we do it, will other organizations do it too? Will they do it differently? Will the results be different? Why do they have different columns in their database? Can't we agree on something? That's called standardizations. I do that all the time. That's why I'm engaged. Don't get me started.
You should establish a standard for aggregating this data.
Absolutely. That's what Ralf is working on. So more to do.